Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Bodacious Rant, and we are going to be doing a spoiler-free review of the latest action spy thriller, Mission Impossible 8. Your mission and review, should you choose to review it and accept it. Okay, that was kind of dumb. I give it a try. Anyways, like I said, we're not going to get into too much spoilers because it's the latest and greatest one, basically the final story for Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible, aka Tom Cruise. So if you've already seen the movie, you enjoyed it, or if you just like listening and watching us, feel free to give us that thumbs up, ring the bell for notifications, and of course subscribe. Appreciate you all for doing that. We got a bunch of reviews up lately. We got Andor, Season 2, Final Destination Bloodlines, A24 Friendship. So we're always doing our best to keep up with the current times and giving you guys stuff to, basically just give me an excuse to put myself on camera. So anyways, as it's called, The Final Reckoning, it is literally the direct sequel to Dead Reckoning, which came out 2023. This one was supposed to come out last year, but due to the writers and actors strike at the end of 2023, a lot of movies, including this one, got postponed and pushed back. So yeah, we basically have the same returning cast from the last one. And this one I feel like had a lot more like celebrity cameos, or like just other bigger actors just come in out of nowhere and play these side characters, which I was not complaining about. This movie continues Tom Cruise's ridiculous and also amazing talents of just doing most of the stunts on his own, and some ridiculous stuff as usual, like whether it be hanging out of a plane or scaling a skyscraper, or almost pulling like John Wick kind of status paint onto himself. It's amazing regardless. And I feel like this one is definitely starting to get mixed reactions with people. Like me personally, I really enjoyed it. And I know the theater I was in when I went to go see it on opening night everybody was really receptive. It got an applause and all that stuff. But I did go see it late. So I literally, as the credits started rolling, I'm like, okay, I'm going. I'm going to get out of here because I'm tired. But I enjoyed it. Is it one of the stronger films? Like, yes, it's up there with the last great ones ever since, Ghost Protocol and even Mission Impossible 3. But compared to movies, recent movies, even the Part 1 and I would say Fallout, story-wise, it does suffer a little bit to a certain extent. I don't think anything awful. I don't think this is the worst one, or some people are making the argument they should have stopped a couple movies ago. Very debatable, but I really had fun with it. Bern, what did you think about this one?
Yeah, so I just want to preface by saying that it might come off more negative, my review of this than I actually feel about it, just because, when you're critiquing something, you tend to point out more of the negatives than you do the positives. So I will say, just like right up front, that for me, I think even though this movie I feel is on the lesser end of a Mission Impossible movie, even that is still miles and miles better than a lot of action movies and blockbusters that we get today. And this movie is just, again, it proves that what Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie and the entire team behind the Mission Impossible movies have been doing is they've just been upping the ante unlike anyone in Hollywood can do, and that they haven't done up to this point. Essentially, just the things that he does. I mean, the two big set pieces in this movie, the last one in particular, is just incredibly mind-blowing. That sure, there's going to be like some criticisms, and I will get into those right now, but those two things alone just floor you to the extent that it's just like, okay, like, even if I didn't enjoy this movie, there's no way I couldn't have enjoyed these particular sequences. And it's like, man, just hats off to everybody involved doing those things, because if this is truly the last one, we are never probably going to see anything like this again, where you have a freaking actor dangling from a biplane. It's absolutely insane what him and his team do here, and they have continued to do for these last few movies. So I just want to tip my hats off to that. But yeah, so I mean, look, when we get down to it, I feel like this movie kind of suffers under the weight of trying to wrap this whole thing up. And I think it's sort of a self-inflicted wound on that aspect, where it is trying to tie in a lot of the different elements from the other previous movies that we've gotten, to the point where I feel like they didn't need to do that. I feel like it could have worked on its own, considering this is a second part to, the first one, which was Dead Reckoning a few years ago. I feel like it didn't need to do all that to sort of make it seem as epic as it is, because again, the set pieces alone are epic in and of themselves. So we don't really need to bend over backwards to sort of tie in all these other elements, just make it seem like this has been one neat narrative from the beginning to end, because it really hasn't, and that's been fine, because you kind of get, as you and I talked about the other day, how they're like little chapters every few movies that we get for these Mission Impossible movies, and it's worked so far. So I feel like them trying to do that kind of bog the movie down, particularly in the first act. But where the movie shines is in those set pieces, and it is in the characters of the crew that we get with the IMF crew, and like you mentioned, the few couple of new characters, the smaller characters that we see in Haddam Waddingham, and the actor from Severance, Tillman. They have a lot of fun with their very like minor roles, and add that sort of element that we had in the previous Mission Impossible movies, where there's a light funness to it, where it seems like this one really kind of gets a little bit self-serious. So those elements that they added, and that some of the characters added sprinkled around the movie, and it helped to liven it up and make the beats between the two big action set pieces not drag as much as they had been up until those points. So yeah, I feel like it is a little bit of a mixed bag, but it leans a little bit more positive because of the elements that we come to these Mission Impossible movies for, which is the incredible action set pieces, and just seeing Tom Cruise and his crew just have a ton of fun with it.
Yeah, and I know when you told me how you originally felt, yeah, it does come off more negative, but that's just because when I really like a movie, I definitely fight for it to a certain extent. But I also see where you're coming from too, Byrne. So yeah, he does make a great point. While this may not be one of the stronger ones and kind of on the weaker end of Mission Impossible, like for majority of this entire franchise, that's still a good thing though. I mean, the lower end for me would be technically Mission Impossible 3 and 1, which I finally watched the other day. And it wasn't bad, but for a 30-year-old movie essentially, I'm like, it's okay, but we've definitely seen it grow into something way better, way more superior. Whether people just look at it as like this is just an action movie with Tom Cruise getting to do stunts, it's like, hate to say it, man, for a guy his age doing this stuff, and seeing just the action alone, it's freaking impressive. That's kind of like, these are the movies that not only are quality wise and the story are solid, but the quality of the action and the production is literally one of the reasons why you should go to the movies, why we get engulfed in that magic, and you really feel it. I looked at it, how you said it kind of tried to wrap up things. I do see that critique. I looked at it as a way it was definitely kind of connecting everything, or at least I would say its connection more to one or two of the movies previously, and I thought it was a pretty emotional and satisfying finale for at least Ethan Hunt's story. I thought the pace was pretty on point. I know you said, like in our private conversation, it was kind of slow here and there. I was like, you know what? I also respectfully disagree. I was awake. I was intent with the story through and through. I just thought it was just really a lot of fun, very fast paced storytelling, and I just think again, because of the pacing, at least in the first half, I felt like it just tried to rush through and try and wrap it up as like a final story would. Again, for those of you who think maybe this movie should have ended at a certain point, you're not wrong. I think the perfect example of a movie that should have ended a long time ago, Fast and Furious, which again, thank God these are not that same quality, but depending who you ask, no offense to those who love it. With everything being said, I definitely recommend this one. This is one of those few movies of the year like you should go to the theaters for. I feel like at this point in the franchise, if you haven't seen the other ones, you can still enjoy this, but a good chunk of it isn't gonna make the most sense, because most spy movies and stuff, at least previous years, they're almost like their own story. So there really is not a whole lot of continuation except for the main character. But this time, at least since Mission Impossible like 3, there's definitely been continuous characters and continuous storylines, especially with Ethan. So if you haven't seen all of them, maybe catch up to them. They're on Paramount Plus, or you could rent them or something decently cheap. But I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5, just because, again, for it being Tom Cruise's last one, supposedly, we'll have to see what happens, because I thought John Wick Chapter 4 is last for Keanu, but they're doing a fifth one, so we'll have to see what the studio and McQuarrie and Tom Cruise decide on. But highly recommend it, especially whether it be IMAX, Dolby, whatever. You're definitely going to want to see this movie.
Yeah, at no point during this movie was I ever bored or was I ever just like waiting for it to end. It was more so waiting for it to get going. Again, it's in those first the first act where it feels like it's trying to do a lot of exposition and setup, and where I got a little bit tired of the characters repeating how dire the situation is over and over again. But once it kicks into that gear, I mean, again, those elements where the characters are talking to each other are a lot of fun because they write it in a way to where it's entertaining and you're like, oh man, the situation is dire. I do believe that this could be the final reckoning, So it makes the payoff in those big action sequences hit a lot more. But again, I just feel like they did it one too many times where it's like, okay, I get it. Let's get to the cool action parts already. But again, once we get to the cool action parts, they're second to none. They've never been, second to any of the other action franchises that we gotten. They've always been in the cutting edge of practical stunt work, and Tom Cruise is the biggest reason for that. And yeah, just the way that they film these movies and the way they put them together is just it's special. It's special that we get these kinds of movies from blockbusters today. So yeah, even though this one wasn't as amazing to me as maybe the last few have been, it's still a really really damn good movie, and it's definitely one that you should go out to see in a theater because again, you're never going to see anything like this again unless you have another psycho actor willing to fund just these absolute stunt spectacles. So yeah, for me, this one is a 3 out of 5. Solid ending to the series. I wish it was a little bit better, but at the end of the day, it's still better than a lot of other things out there.
Yeah. You know what? I was gonna say, is it better than Sinners? I'm not gonna answer that question because I've already talked about that a lot the last few reviews. So.
Different movie, yeah, different type of movie.
So you can't. It's definitely apples to oranges on this one. So, yeah. So it's a 4 for me, 3 for Byrne. Which Byrne again, still a positive 3 from him. Yeah, for those of you who did happen to watch this, this Memorial Day weekend, please let us know what you thought about it. Love to keep getting your thoughts. Maybe even throw in what was your favorite stunt or scene from one of the movies or the movies in general. Actually, Byrne, before we finish up, did you want to kind of do like what would you say is your favorite ones, or how would you rank these movies? In general.
Mm-hmm. Funny you should say that. I have my list.
Well, there we go. Let's hear it.
My knock list.
No, it's your. You know what? Forget it. I can't think of another word. Just go, Bernie. Go with your list.
So, in ascending order, at number 8, I have Mission Impossible 2. It's the lesser one of the franchise, but it's still a lot of fun. And, it came out the right time when I was a kid. It's ridiculous. It's silly, but it's just so cool. With the glasses and the jackets and the motorcycles. It's so much fun. And then after that, I do have The Final Reckoning, but everything from here on up, it's very hard to rate these because they're all so interchangeable when you watch them and when you enjoy them. So yeah, I have The Final Reckoning at 7. I have the first Mission Impossible at my number 6. Number 5, I have Mission Impossible 3. Just right above that, I have the Dead Reckoning 4 and 5. These are also again kind of interchangeable. It's just depending on the mood. If I want something a little bit more lighter, with the Dead Reckoning or Ghost Protocol at number 3. I should say. Mission Impossible 3 at number 5 is just kind of feels like where the franchise went going. So yeah, it's like 5, I have Mission Impossible 3. 4, I have Dead Reckoning. At number 3, I have Ghost Protocol. At number 2, I have Rogue Nation, the first Christopher McQuarrie movie. A lot of fun on that one. Definitely watched it again the other day and just, reminded me how great it was. And yeah, at number 1, it's no question Fallout. It's just one of the best action movies ever made. So yeah, I have Fallout, Rogue Nation, Ghost Protocol, Dead Reckoning, Mission Impossible 3, Mission Impossible 1, The Final Reckoning, and Mission Impossible 2 in the last spot.
A very solid list. I'm just going to go from, best to worst just because that's the best way I can think about it. So my first favorite is, like you, is Fallout because we had Superman in there, Henry Cavill, Angela Bassett, Alec Baldwin. One of the best stories and best action films and just best characters in the entire franchise in that one alone. So that one, Fallout, then Rogue Nation. I'm going to put Dead Reckoning as number 3, and then I will say Final Reckoning as the fourth one. Fifth one is going to be Ghost Protocol, because that one was just amazing. Oh my god, after Ghost Protocol, Mission Impossible 3, and then 1 and 2 are basically going to round it out, just because, yeah, like the last chunk of these movies, the last half really have just been amazing through and through. Like, I can't praise them enough. Usually they're going to be in my top 10 the last several years. Every year they've come out, they're always going to be in my top 10. So, yeah.
Yeah, everything after Mission Impossible 3 has just been incredible.
Yeah, like,
it's insane.
And Mission Impossible 3 was the very first one I ever saw, so I remember thinking, like, oh man, this is badass. This is, like, super intense. And, God rest Philip Seymour Hoffman in that one. So, yeah, so that's our opinions. Feel free to put your guys' order of what you guys liked as well. But as always, until next time, stay bodacious and keep on ranting for us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch y'all on the next one.